Welcome to the World of Rare Disease, a show that focuses on awareness and education about rare and complex disorders. My name is Lisa Deck, and I'm a rare disease patient, a Rare New England Committee member, and your host for today's show. Today, our show features Dr. Stanley Crooke. Dr. Crooke is a founder, chief executive officer, and chairman of n-Lorem Foundation. He's also the founder and former chairman and chief executive officer of Ionis Pharmaceuticals, the leader in RNA-targeted therapeutics. Under his leadership of Ionis, he pioneered development of the revolutionary Antisense technology platform and created one of the largest, most advanced pipelines in the biotechnology industry. Today, Ionis has more than 40 medicines in development. Prior to founding Ionis, Dr. Crooke was head of R&D at SmithKline, where he was involved in commercializing numerous drugs in broad therapeutic areas, and later assumed responsibility for worldwide R&D at SmithKline Beckham. At Bristol Myers, he established the first broad anti-cancer program, bringing 9 drugs to the market in 5 years. He has led the development of more than 20 marketed drugs and supported the creation and growth of several companies based on Ionis's Antisense technology. Today, we will meet Dr. Crooke and learn more about his work and n-Lorem. Welcome, Dr. Crooke. I want to get started asking you about your history and experience in the rare disease world.
Well, it's nice to be here, Lisa. And as I originally did an MD PhD at Baylor College of Medicine, and my house staff training was there, and I was on the faculty there for a number of years. But I was really interested in the leverage that you get from making a good medicine. And so simultaneously, I moved to industry, and in the first 5 years of my career, built what was the first sort of broad-based anti-cancer program, and had the privilege of bringing quite a few anti-cancer drugs to the market, and then was president of R&D at what was then SmithKline Beckman, now is GSK, and was there for about 9 years, and again had the opportunity to bring a number of good medicines to the market. But I'd always felt that the industry was failing to invest in new technologies that would make us more efficient so we could bring better health to more people. And that's what led me to found Ionis, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, that focused on creating this new technology for drug discovery, which is the basis of n-Lorem. And of course, like most physicians and patients and parents and others, I've become aware of rare disease because of the efforts of people like you and many others in bringing awareness forward. And so given the efficiency of the technology we had at Ionis, then we participated very broadly in the rare disease opportunity with, with our medicine Spinraza for spinal muscular atrophy being something that I'm extremely proud of, but many other medicines for rare diseases. And so I think I come by the commitment to rare and ultra rare diseases in sort of the natural way, the sort of progression of understanding that there are many of these rare genetic diseases. And then one step further, I came to realize that there are many of even rarer N of 1 kinds of mutations that are causing patients to suffer.
Right. It's really remarkable the career you have led and all the different medications and different drugs that you've brought to market. It's really amazing to hear that. So I'd love for you to touch upon what exactly, as you mentioned, Ionis, and can you tell us a little bit about that and how that came to be?
Mm-hmm. Well, I founded Ionis more than 3 decades ago with a single-minded purpose of focusing on RNA-targeted drug discovery, or it's also called Antisense. I did that because I strongly believe that if we could make it work, it would be dramatically more efficient, and the medicines that we create would be far more specific and better. And I felt that the industry and patients desperately needed that. And we invested then 30 years in creating, advancing, and validating that technology. And it is that technology really that then supports n-Lorem. So I was chairman and CEO of Ionis for more than 3 decades. And I was also the lead scientist and participated extensively. I think I led our understanding of molecular mechanisms by which these medicines work. And the technology proved to be versatile, vastly more efficient, and capable of creating medicines both rapidly and effectively, and medicines that were better. Spinraza being, I think, the perfect example of that. Armed with that opportunity, then n-Lorem became possible. Without the work that we did at Ionis, n-Lorem would not be possible. So the first step that I took in constructing n-Lorem was to assure that there was a strong partnership, working relationship with Ionis, which was fairly easy for me since I was lost in both places. But that relationship is central because there is no organization that can make these ASO medicines in the way that Ionis can.
Right. Excellent. And so how exactly and when did n-Lorem come to be? And tell me a little bit about n-Lorem, because I think that's something you're very proud of right now and something you're working on.
Well, it's now about 4.5 years ago when it hit me that in principle, the technology that we had created could be used to treat patients with ultra rare mutations. And I spent probably the next 6 months checking my sanity, because the idea that you could make a personalized medicine for a single patient is just something that was not in my not in my DNA, that's for sure. But after I had a sanity check, I realized that it was possible for the technology. But of course, that alone is not sufficient to do what we're doing. And so the next step for me was to be introduced to the Undiagnosed Disease Network, which I imagine your viewers know. It is a consortium of tertiary care centers that have been committed over the last number of years to identifying and genetically diagnosing patients with ultra rare undiagnosed diseases. And that organization, I think, is a central element of this whole process. It laid the foundation for what we're doing. And so I then developed a collaboration with the UDN. And obviously, all of this is driven by the advances in gene sequencing. None of this could happen without that extraordinary set of advances. So then the next step was to assure that I knew the sort of model that would work. And I spent some time trying to see if there was a way to rejigger the commercial model, as we've done for rare diseases, and manage this, and concluded that that would not be possible and it would be wrong. And so we're embarking on something that's never been done before, which is to give drugs away for free, for life. But that is the only solution, because there is no path to approval for a single patient's drug. And even if one could, I think the cost would have to be so exorbitant to make it make commercial sense. And so I'm committed to a nonprofit model and committed to the mission. And then the third element that had to go in addition to the technology, was to be sure that regulatory authorities were supportive. And so I spent most of 2019 in discussions with the senior leaders of the FDA, the policy people of the FDA, and others, and was very pleased with their response. And it's clear that they understand that these patients present a unique set of challenges and have a unique set of needs that can be met only by what we're doing, at least today. And so when that was all in place, then I founded n-Lorem in January of 2020. With our founding donors being Ionis, our partner in the neurosciences, Biogen, and then my wife and I have contributed.
Wow, that's really remarkable, because it is something that hasn't been done. I mean, it really, like you said, coming up with a medicine for free for life. I know you touched upon the Antisense technology, and can you explain to our viewers what that means and how that plays into kind of the discoveries that have been happening?
Well, with Antisense, what we do is we design chemically modified small pieces of genetic information. And they're heavily chemically modified because you need to introduce good properties for medicine so that they can be used. And so when we have a genetic diagnosis, when we know the nature of the mutation, then it becomes a fairly straightforward process to design a genetic medicine for that disease. So it is the only direct method from the gene to the patient. It's extraordinarily efficient because we understand the rules. And the rules are the same rules that govern how you behave and what your genetics are, just the rules of genetics, A, T, C, G. So it's a simple 4-letter code that we know how to use now. It's a very simple language. And given our many decades now of experience, we understand these agents. They've continued to advance. We have multiple chemical classes that we can use, multiple mechanisms for which we can design them so we can do different things when the patient needs different things. And we have enough experience with many thousands of patients with these medicines that we can be confident that we understand also what the potential side effects are. So it is very different from traditional drug discovery, which uses small molecules that bind to proteins, and that's a vastly more complex landscape. And so we just taken a step of doing something simpler.
Right. Well, you say simple. I'm not sure that we would say simple, but I do love that.
It did take 30 years, lots of failures, and many.
I was going to say millions of dollars, but yeah, it's, but simple. No, but I think that's remarkable, and that you're making it easy for somebody like me to understand when I don't fully understand the genetics behind it. But, and that was my next question. You just mentioned thousands of patients. So are you with n-Lorem, is it treating different ultra rare diseases, different patients? Like how is that, how does that process work?
Well, let's begin with the patient. These patients are the most underserved patient in the developed economies. They're isolated. They're typically there may be a single person in the world that has their mutation. And the vast majority of these patients, unfortunately, are never diagnosed. They never find out what's wrong with them, and the disease consumes them. The fortunate few who are eventually diagnosed, it's typically a multi-year, highly perilous journey while their disease is progressing, for them to be identified as having something odd and making their way to a place that can genetically evaluate them and make a diagnosis. So it is a patient population that's truly desperate, truly isolated. There is no community if you're the community of one. And they're typically, by the time we're able to get to them these days, they're in an urgent need of treatment. They can't wait. So that's the patient. Now, the disease. Once we know the genetic cause, the name of the disease is completely irrelevant. It doesn't really matter whether it has a name or not. So the vast majority of these patients do not have a named disease. They have a mutation that's unique to them. But once we know that, then we know how to treat it. Now, we can't treat every mutation and we can't treat every kind of patient. But my attitude about that is the basic dictum of therapeutics has always been treat the patients you can today while investing long-term to do a better job for more patients tomorrow. And so we are the tip of that spear. We are treating the patients who we can treat today, and we believe blazing a path for others to follow as other technologies come online to do this.
Right. Wow. That's really something. And tell me, so, as you said, these the patients that are isolated, and how does a patient go about accessing this therapy? Is it through the undiagnosed network? Is it through hospitals? I'm guessing if somebody's watching this and they're that patient, they're wondering, what do I do? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, here's some great news. The UDN began as this consortium, but one of the things that we've observed since we started n-Lorem is that more than half of our cases come from other personalized medicine centers. And so the problem of these uniquely needy patients is being recognized broadly in medicine. And so there are many personalized medicine centers that are being created in various medical centers around. So the first step for a patient is sadly the hardest, and that is to work your way through the gatekeeper physician through the specialist to being referred to a tertiary care center where someone can genetically diagnose you, and where you have someone who's capable of understanding the nature of your disease and then treating you. So to apply for treatment requires both the patient or parent and a research physician at a center that can take care of that patient. And so there's the patient and physician simply go to our website and complete an application. Now that application is complex because we need to know the organs involved, the nature of the mutation, the nature of the gene, what its functions are, what the problems that the patient is experiencing are. So all of that has to be in there for us to make a decision about whether we can treat today. On our website, there's also a page sort of navigating toward treatment page that we're getting ready to put onto our website. And I hope that helps patients as well. We've gotten a good many calls from patients who are searching for a physician. They may already know the mutation, but they don't have a physician to take care of them. We try to help them as much as we can, but over time, I believe what will emerge is centers of excellence where our opportunity to treat and the diagnosis are merged in a seamless fashion, and we can be very efficient. And we're working on that. And then we will add then a list of physicians and institutions to our page as they come online, and hopefully then patients who know their diagnosis or have a disease and don't know their diagnosis can more rapidly make their way to a center that can help them. These centers also have to be able to take care of them. The regulatory authority under which we work is called an IND. That's the document that you have to file with the FDA when you want to run a clinical trial. And so the institution has to be capable of actually managing an IND and taking good care of that patient while we're treating the patient.
Right. So there's definitely multiple layers, and it sounds though as your goal is to make it as simple for the patients and the doctors and these centers of excellence to get that treatment, which is excellent. And
Yeah.
I would say that probably comes from your years of experience and knowing, what it takes to actually make it happen.
Yes, I think it comes from years of experience in drug discovery and development and science and medicine, and basically an empathetic response to the plight of these patients. I don't think it's hard to feel the sadness or the needs of these patients. That's the easy part. The hard part is to help some, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it became very much a moral question. This is probably not what I had in mind at this stage in my career or life, but if I can help these patients, I have to. There isn't any choice, and we are helping them. So it is complex today, and the major complexity is getting to a diagnosis. Once you have a diagnosis, then at least there's one technology online now that might be able to help. And as I look forward, I see the role of n-Lorem as both blazing a new trail and creating models of quality so that these patients are treated with high quality, and we learn as much from each patient as possible, and we share that with all the communities that need it, so that others can follow. And certainly over the long-term solution to these patients' needs must be integrating genomic sequencing in newborn screening. That is the only way we're going to identify patients before they progress to the place that we can't help. And obviously that's going to take some time, and it has to be done properly so that we don't run into, the ethical issues that might come from coercion and all that. But that's the long-term solution. So I see our role as blazing this path, and then others can follow as other technologies mature to the place that they can approach these patients. And that's how we move from thousands of patients to be treated to millions. We can't do it alone. And we are busy creating a network of all the stakeholders, and we've made a lot of progress, but we're still just scratching the surface. But that network is really important. And I'm thrilled with the response that we've gotten from all of the service providers in the industry and all of our potential partners. We've managed in 2 years to lower the cost per patient by about 40%. And it's low for us to begin with. So we've made good progress, but we have a long way to go. And we have limits. There are mutations we can't address. And then we're only willing to work in certain organs because these are the organs we know the best, and we know we can be sure that the medicines are potent, and we can be confident that we understand what potential side effects there could be, because we cannot add a side effect burden to these patients. Certainly not, we can't add an imprudent risk. So we work in the central nervous system, and there are, of course, most of our patients today are central nervous system patients, and that we inject locally into spinal fluid. Aerosol used for pulmonary lung difficulties, and then in the eye, we have a long experience injecting directly in the eye every 6 to 9 months, and that works. And then systemically sub-Q, that is, we inject a tiny dose under the skin for liver and kidney problems. So those are our 5 organs today that we'll work on. But as we learn more and the technology continues to advance, we'll add other organs.
Right. Wow. It really, I do these interviews, and when I hear some of this amazing science and these discoveries, and it's just very matter of fact to you. So thank you for sharing it with all of us. I was going to ask what the future of n-Lorem is, but it looks like you have told us the path ahead and what you're looking for. I don't know if you had any other comments on that or any other comments for our viewers.
Well, I do think we face tremendous challenges. We haven't proven that a nonprofit model is sustainable yet. In our first 2 years, in total, in terms of in-kind contributions and dollars, I think we've raised $30 to $50 million already, which is really pretty remarkable when you think of how novel the idea is, and we were going through COVID-19 and everything else. And that's great, but look at the demand. I thought maybe by now we'd have 10 applications and maybe be moving toward treating 2 or 3 patients. In parallel with n-Lorem, we have treated 14 patients already, and I think there is some evidence of benefit. And we've received today more than 100 applications, and we've approved for treatment around 40 patients who had no hope until now. Hopelessness is a powerful determinant of health, or actually not health. So to take hopeless people and give them hope and then help is really a rare privilege, and I'm overjoyed to participate in it. So we need to meet the demand that we are receiving, and we know that it's growing rapidly. We need then to raise the money that we need, and we need everyone's help in that. And we've had to respond very rapidly and build our organization much more rapidly than we had planned, because these patients need us. So there are plenty of challenges ahead. And then we look forward to working with other organizations. There's a gene therapy consortium that's being formed at the NIH, and many of the patients we can't treat actually need a new gene. we can't make a new gene. And so as gene therapy matures, I hope that comes online. And we're developing other partnerships with other organizations to help us through this. So I don't mean to imply that we're there yet. We're not. We have real work to do and many challenges, and the demand has really stretched us. Our goal is to be able to, from application to treatment, 12 to 15 months, which is pretty remarkable to think about. That means identify the patient, figure out what the mutation is, what the gene does, discover a medicine, develop the medicine, manufacture the medicine, and then get it ready to provide to a patient in 12 to 15 months. Only this technology can do that. So we need to continue to work to meet that goal. We're not meeting it right now just because of the demand. And we're learning, we've had to invent new systems. And so I don't want anyone to think that we can help everyone. We can't. We can only help a certain number. And we're not anywhere close to even starting this journey. It's going to be a long, arduous journey. I've made plenty of those in my time. and I'm used to blazing new trails. And so we're very confident we're going to be able to do it, but we're going to need everyone's help.
Right. Well, thank you for blazing the trails. I think, we need people like you in this rare and ultra rare world willing to kind of look at things with a new lens and figure out how to make it work. So very honored to meet you and to speak with you and share you with all of our viewers. And I want to say thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and we're here for the patient. Send us your patients.
Before closing, we provide our viewers with an opportunity to share comments and our questions from our prior shows. Rare New England in Motion is the perfect way to expand upon our mission of engaging with our community. We love to hear from you and interact with you about our guests and topics. You can reach out anytime to info@rarenewengland.org. Thank you again to Dr. Crooke for taking time to be with us today. This show wouldn't be possible without the generous sponsorship of our show sponsors, Pfizer, Ultragenics, Vertex, Horizon, and the law offices of Weiner, Jackson, and Simmons. We appreciate your continued support. We're always looking for other sponsors and guests, so please reach out to us via our website if you are interested. From all of us here at Rare New England and all the patients and families who keep rare disease in motion, thank you for watching. And remember, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, and then think zebras. Thank you.